One of my newer clients, she is a boss babe, 3 businesses. One of them does $2 million a year, wife, 3 kids, horse farm, like the whole thing. Here is why she hired me. Is she said, you call me on my bullshit.
All right. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Champion Life Podcast. I'm your host, Curt Tucker, alongside my beautiful wife, Rachel, today. And today, friends, we want to talk about the subject of who's going to tell you the truth. See, sometimes accepting the truth, especially maybe even coming from a spouse, can be a little difficult. But today, we're going to talk about who's going to tell you the truth and really 3 reasons why you might need a coach. So anyhow, welcome to the podcast, honey. It's been maybe a while since we've had you on, a month or so, something like that. You're super busy right now. You got a lot going on. And so I know I've been trying to get you locked down to join me for an episode. So welcome. So we're going to start with this, friends. I want you to think about where you're at right now and maybe a particular area of your life that you're just not satisfied, that you're a little bit frustrated. Maybe you're a little bit unhappy, and it kind of brings some things up in you that you don't like. Because here's what I know is that many times for us to change things, sometimes we have to get, sometimes even rock bottom, right? You know, we've been there. You know, we know what it's like to be rock bottom, to be bankrupt, to lose everything, house foreclosed, cars repossessed, on food stamps, verge of a divorce. And, you know, if I can just be honest with you guys out there, that's probably one of the best things that ever happened to us. Much like when I went through the battle with mercury poisoning, although that 2 years absolutely sucked, it completely has changed the way that I will live my life for the rest of my life on, you know, how I go about wellness and longevity and all those different things. And so today I want you to think about, maybe it's in your fitness, maybe it's in your marriage, maybe it's in your business, but what is an area of your life that you're just like, hey, I'm so sick and tired of this? And so today we're going to give you 3 things that I believe are going to be so important for you to hopefully, you know, begin to start moving in the right direction, you know, where you're at to where you want to go. And then, you know, hey, you may at the end of this podcast today say, you know what? I need some help in one of those 3 particular areas. So the first area that Rach and I are going to touch on, and I'll let her go first, is the power of clarity. See, I believe that, you know, when we have clear vision, right? And you just did an incredible vision night with a group of about 15 ladies at the house, you know, so talk to people a little bit about the importance of clarity, ultimately getting a vision for their life, and how that's impacted your life and even some of the ladies that you coach.
Well, I think that that's why it's important to have the right people around you, because if you're hanging out with all the same people that have the same issues of you, you're not going to move. You know, so if currently, like, here is, I hear this a lot of people, they can't vision, like they have the inability to vision. And so I start asking them about their crowd they hang out with. Are they the same? Well, then you're actually in a cage if you're not hanging around big dreaming, big visioning people who are up to big things, right? So the first thing is just to kind of make awareness. So as a coach, one of the first things I do is getting them hyper aware of why they are stuck. And a lot of that comes with how they think, right? So as a coach, you mentioned it a couple of times, as coaches, like, people hire us for speed. We hire coaches for speed and also to help us think better. And sometimes our thinking pattern is why we stay in the same place. So somebody yesterday, as a matter of fact, just did a call with somebody, and they said this, well, you know, I'm going to wrap my brain around that. And I'm like, okay, well, let's start our session now. Like, how long has this been your way of doing things? And is that working for you? So as far as, you know, for me, clarity is, okay, let's shine a light on all of our blind spots. Like, that's as coaches. And I think you and I have gotten really great at that, sharing blind spots with people, especially, since we are marriage coaches, like I know him better than anybody else. I've seen the sanctification process. I've seen him go from, win to win to win to win, from failure to win, from failure to win, from failure to win, always reconciling himself. So like in an area, if I would bring an area to bring some clarity to you, you wouldn't stay in that, because now it's no longer ignorance, right?
Sure.
So I think a lot of this is like, ignorance is bliss. And I think that's why a lot of times people won't hire a coach or won't invest their own money into a coach, because they really don't want to know. They really don't want to do the work. They really love being comfortable inside their comfort zone, having things handed to them ultimately. So for me, how I coach people is, the first step is, let's get hyper aware of our blind spots and the things that hold us back. And many times we're conditioned to think a certain way. And a lot of times for people who are stuck, it's I just had this conversation with Carson on the phone. I'm trying to help the kid eat better. He's like, well, is this something I should ease into? I'm like, no, that's how poor people think, Carson, is they ease into things. I'm like, we're going to go all in on this. So I think clarity, for me personally, you might have a different explanation for it, but for me, my thing is to, let's shine the light on the things that hold us back. And a lot of times that is our conditioning and how we think, and our mindset on a lot of things.
And I think mindset is so powerful when you're trying to get clarity, because here's what I mean by that, friends, is, and probably the reason why you need to have some people in your corner in making sure that your mindset is going to the next level, so that, just like when you did a vision night the other night and you're explaining to people why we have the things that we have on our vision board, or some of the I am statements that we'll utilize, because these I am statements begin to start redefining what you believe is possible. Like, you might not have something right now, but because you begin to start thinking in that direction and dreaming in that direction, it's the likelihood of you actually accomplishing that is going to be much further than if you didn't at all. So sometimes you need to get around the right people that can help you dream a dream that is worthy of going. Because, I remember early in our journey, after we had lost everything, and I had never had a coach, and it was just like, hey, here's the things that I want to accomplish, but they weren't really big. Like, there's a saying, right, that if whatever you're wanting you can do by yourself, it's not big enough.
Yeah.
Like you need to be able to have
God. Scare you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it should scare you a little bit, and you should, have to be able to ask the question, well, this is what I want. Man, I'm going to need some help in this. Number one, I'm going to need God's help. I should be wanting to call upon him to help me, right? Number two, I'm probably going to need to level up. Level up in my circle of influence, level up in my skill sets, because really a goal, a dream, a vision is about who you become in pursuit of that goal, that dream, that vision. So if you're thinking big, friends, then you probably are going to be thinking, shoot, I need some help, right? So clarity, why it's so important, is because now once we're clear on the things that we want to accomplish, and my encouragement to you on this podcast today, if you're listening to this, is I don't want you to just get clear, but I want you to think big, because it's going to take the same amount of effort and energy. Time's going to go by, the days, the weeks, the months of you working towards a particular goal. You might as well go ahead and think a little bit bigger. So many times when I'll sit down with somebody, I just did this with one of my clients the other day, where he said, hey, I want to achieve this certain particular amount. He's a financial planner. He's like, I want to make this amount of money. And I was like, well, dude, we can go for that, but why not go ahead and focus on doubling your income? Because the reality is the same amount of effort that's going to go into getting you to increase your business by about 13% from where you're at right now. We might as well go ahead and just do the same things and double your income. What would that look like for you, for your family, for the dreams, the goals that you have, right? So anyhow, getting clarity is the beginning, friends. It's the first thing that I do when I coach somebody, by the way, is to help them get absolute clarity on what they want in their life, to define what I like to call the ultimate life. Where now, because if you understand that life is by design, Tony Robbins says this, that life will pay whatever price you ask of it. But you better ask intelligently, because if you were on the streets and you ran into a homeless person today, they might beg or want to have you give them a what? $1. Is $1 really going to change that person's life? No. But that's what they've conditioned themselves to ask for over and over and over again. So therefore, by what they're asking, when people give it to them, it doesn't really take their life to the next level. So you want to be mindful of what you're asking for, friends, and ask for something, begin to seek something, begin to start putting work into something that's ultimately going to give you the life that you want. And if you don't know how to get that, that's why, and that's the number one reason why you might need a coach, why you might need somebody to help you get clarity, but also think big enough to where your life is going to truly change.
Can I add to this real quick?
Absolutely.
Before we move on, is I'm experiencing this learning Spanish. So we understand that we've created certain belief systems in our head, certain mindsets in our head, and they're called neural pathways, right? And each time we speak the same way, we keep rewiring that thing. So we practice, what we practice grows, right? So when I'm learning this in Spanish right now, so just the task, because we do the I am affirmations, right?
Yep.
So just the repetition of you saying these things out loud, or me learning Spanish, like, so now I am 30-day streak. I've been doing it consistently, probably for a couple months, but daily for 30 days. And here's what I'm noticing is when I'm seeing this sentence come across, like my brain is reading it, I'm like, I understand it. And that's the power of just being consistent and repetition on the things that you do want. And so that's the biggest thing we help people with. Like, we have to help you. We have to create new neural pathways. Like Dr. Caroline Leaf, her book, Switch on the Brain, has a 5-step detox to help you do this. It takes 21 days to actually rewire a connection to the life you do want versus the mediocrity, humdrum, I'm still the same person like that you're currently living.
That's powerful. That's powerful. So number 2, guys, of why you might need a coach or how a coach can help you is when it comes to strategy. Because here's the deal, Rachel said it earlier, ultimately you want to pay for speed. See, I believe that if you knew how close you were to a better life, you would sprint to the finish line. See, like you just said it a second ago, why do people want to ease into things? Why do we want to just take our time trying to get, where we want to go? I don't know about you, but when we go on vacation to Cancun, as much as I know that we could drive there, right? Because you can drive to Cancun. You would have to drive all the way down through Mexico, whatever. Or we could even fly there and we could do multiple flights. I always look for a direct flight. Why? Because there's a destination, right? There's a beach. There's an outcome that I want to get to, and I want to get there as fast as I possibly can. So therefore, I'm going to look for the quickest path. But here's the deal. If you don't know how to get there, if you've set this goal over and over and over again, that I want to get here in my health, I'm still sick, I'm still dealing with this health issue, I have not been able to accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish in my marriage, we're still fighting about the same things, we're still dealing with the same issues, or maybe it's in your finances or whatever, and you're still trying to go about this stuff, one of the questions that we ask almost every single person when we're doing an initial strategy call with people and we're going over trying to help them get from where they are to where they want to be, we'll ask them to count the cost, right? Like, if you don't take action on this, there's an investment, all right? But if you don't take action on this, all right, and you don't invest the money, the reality is how much is this really going to cost you? Like, when I think about 2 or 3 friends of ours in the last year who didn't get help in their marriage, right? They didn't seek help, and now they're divorced. And how much money has been spent on attorney fees, has been spent on literally all the other things that they've went through, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
The trauma to the kids.
The trauma to the kids. Yeah. I mean, literally, Rachel and I, you say this all the time. What does a divorce lead to?
Destruction of a small village.
It's a destruction of a small village because somebody All right. And that's why I honor the women who reach out to you, the women who are willing to hire you, because sometimes it's like, well, hold on, if the husband's in charge of the finances, right? And he's like, nope. It's like when you first hired Coach Anthony, and I was like, what? It's $5,000, you know what I mean? But I look at the life-changing things that happen in that 2-month process that
it was like one thing, really.
ripped off,
Yeah.
things from you that literally was so transforming for our
Yeah.
marriage, right? And you really hired him from kind of
Something
a
else.
business thing,
Yeah.
but he really helped you in some
Yeah.
other areas. So I love when people are willing to say, like, listen, I understand I need help, but here's the deal. Why would you want to have something that can be solved in a matter of a couple months or even maybe 6 months, a year of your life, take 5 years, 10 years, and continue to go through the anguish and all the different things? It just doesn't make sense. But let me share this with you, friends, is if you're there right now, okay, I do want to give you some grace. And here's the reason why, is because until you know better, it's hard to do better. All right. But we have this saying that when you know better, you should do better. Like, it's very hard for me to go out and just continue to suck down, 6 Diet Cokes a day, knowing that it's loaded with aspartame, which is a neurotoxin that ruins my brain and is going to potentially disrupt my gut and my microbiome and so forth and so on. So therefore, I'm not going to suck down 6 Diet Cokes a day. Now, will I occasionally have a Diet Coke if we're on a vacation in Cancun or something like that and I can't get access to Zevia or whatever? Yeah. But I'm not going to willingly do something over and over and over again, knowing it's going to have an irreversible effect. So think about that from a standpoint of your fitness or your marriage or whatever. Is when you understand the power of being able to get a strategy that's going to be able to help you get to the goal the quickest, it's an absolute game changer. So I'm going to share one strategy with people, and then I'll have you share one. Is, I had a gentleman who came to me and he had a vision to kind of begin to start investing in some real estate stuff. And he started sharing with me his plan of how he was going to get there. And after getting clarity of why he wanted to invest in real estate, okay, because he wanted to have a certain income stream coming in, what we did was we talked through the goal. And because we had clarity on exactly what he wanted and why he wanted to build the real estate portfolio, we were able to switch the strategy on how to get to the goal that he thought was going to take him about 3 to 4 years. And just by changing a few things and using his network that he had already in place a little bit better, he was able to go get those deals done in literally 3 months. So it was a different perspective, right? Because that's what happens. Like, I think about, I have a friend of mine that just posted a couple of days ago that he just got LASIK done, right? And I think to myself, if I only would have known, number one, how affordable LASIK was, the fact that I could get 0% for 3 years on the procedure. I don't know about y'all, but free money for 3 years is a smart investment. Okay. But the fact of what kind of quality of vision it would give me so that I could see without distractions. Oh my gosh, I would have done it such a long time ago. And that's exactly what I did for this gentleman. And now he's absolutely crushing it. So anyhow, strategy for you. What do you think is so important about strategy, and how do you see it when you implement this in with the people that you work with?
I was thinking about something else, actually.
Well, share it.
Here's what I want to share is it goes back to the different perspective and how, just like for me, it was about my heart, right? So my heart posture is for Jesus. So for me, and then when we went to marriage counseling, like our very first marriage coaching, I know I got to say that for guys, right? Because guys get all like, I don't need no help. Well, yeah, how's that working for you? But either way, our first thing was, John John. And as a matter of fact, he was at dinner last night. He was outside. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's John John. He said, burn the boats. Like, you got to take divorce off the table. Because I always had a foot out. Like, I always had, well, just in case this doesn't work out, I just was never fully in. My heart's for Jesus. So I'm like, done. And so for me, my perspective in working with people and the difference in, like, say, Kaylee Bartow's. So Kaylee Bartow was somebody who has a heart for Jesus. And it was all about Jesus. It was nothing about her. It was all she needed was a different perspective. So sitting at my dining room table for an hour, she was kind of there, just kind of expressing her situation with her marriage and her husband. They were separated. It wasn't going well. And I provided her one perspective shift and got her to look outside of herself. And that changed everything. They're freaking rocking it in life now. She moved back home. Their family's thriving. And you know what the difference is between me and her and all of the other people that maybe we freely given advice to and they don't take it, is because their heart isn't right. Like for me, I die to self every day. My life's for Jesus's purpose. And so for me, it wasn't about me. Like, because my flesh, it's talking about like the fruit of the spirit, right? It goes, flesh and spirit. And the flesh always contradicts what the flesh is like, get me the hell out of here. The spirit is what? Long suffering. That's the difference. So if somebody's like, I don't need a perspective, they just want to get out, they're all about, they have not had the heart transformation in Jesus. So that's a perspective that sometimes people don't realize that about themselves. Like they're so into the flesh part, which is religious traditions. And I do all the things. I don't, I go to church and whatever, but they're angry, they're bitter, their heart isn't right. That's flesh.
I love what Pastor Andy, our pastor, said the other day, that, why do we forgive? Because of how much God has forgiven us. Mm-hmm. And the fact of just the fact of forgiveness, right? How it sets you free, right? Well, let me tell you what else sets you free, friends, is when you have a vision for your life. Yeah. Because if you're not waking up every single day, like ready to charge, ready to go out there and just, I have one of my I am statements or belief systems or whatever, is that, every day is an adventure. Like if you go back to school, in your mind as a little kid and you were in second grade, right? And you were going on a field trip that day, like you woke up feeling different than if it was just a normal everyday, go to school type of day. Like you just knew it was going to be an adventure. You didn't know where exactly you were going as a kid, right? But you knew it was going to be different. And so you were excited. And it's like, hey, listen, I was sending a message to somebody today who was reached out and asked for some wisdom on something. And I said, here's the deal, is every single day you get to choose how you're going to act, how you're going to think, how you're going to react versus respond, right? And each of us, every day is a different day, right? Like every day there's different things that are getting thrown at you, and you get the power of choice. Mm-hmm. You get the power to decide, if something doesn't go your way, what perspective you're going to look at things through, right? So, if you're in a challenging spot right now, or here's another thing, maybe you're just kicking butt right now. Like, I love that season of life too, where you're winning, right? We're winning right now. Like, I love that. I love this season of life, but it still continues to want me to elevate my own personal growth, right? Mm-hmm. Like for the month of October that we're in right now, I've said, hey, listen, I want to make sure that I'm getting my 100 push-ups in a day. I want to make sure I'm reading my 10 pages. So when am I going to get that done? I'm going to do it in the sauna, right? When am I going to make sure that, I do my breath work? Hey, listen, I'm going to go outside and there's certain things that when you want to do things, friends, you have to be committed to doing them. And when you said burn the boats, for those of you guys who have heard us talk about that in a marriage, essentially when you're burning the boats, what that means is that there is no exit strategy. Mm-hmm. Like there is no, I'm leaving, I'm mm-hmm. out.
It's off the table.
The D word, all that stuff. It's like, listen, as a team, we're going to win together or we're going to learn together. There is no losing.
No.
It's we're going to continue to get better. And you hear us talk about Team Tucker all the time, because that's our mindset when we go into things, whether it's parenting our kids, whether it's cleaning the kitchen, whether it's, building a business, whatever. It's a team concept that's going to make us better.
Can I speak on the vision real quick?
Yes.
Okay. So I just had a realization myself recently, which kind of spurred the vision night, is the Bible verse says people who don't have vision perish. That word in the Hebrew literally means cast off restraint. Like, so if you find yourself drinking a little too much, not reading as, fervently as you have, not really excited, like not anything happening. And I'm like, because I didn't have a vision. Like I hadn't had a new vision board probably 5 or 6 years. And it was like, and that's the thing with being connected to the vine, is the Holy Spirit will convict you. I don't need somebody telling me, hey, you don't have a vision, because I'm connected to the vine. The Holy Spirit guides me daily. And sometimes it just takes me a little longer, but it was like a realization, like, oh my gosh, and like us now, we're like, man, we need a crowd. We need a new crowd too. Like, geez, like we are now searching for a new coach, new mentors for us, because we need that. Like, because we've gotten to the point in our crowd, we are the wisest in our crowd. And that's not a good place to be.
Yeah. And we're willing to admit that, by the way, there's absolute transparency. And as you grow, as you continue to level up, you're going to either get to a certain point where you now have become, or it's, man, I don't ever want to become, like, I want to continue to be progressing, right? There's the saying, you're either growing or you're dying, there is no really in between, type of thing. So anyhow, so the last thing, friends, that I want to talk about is what I believe to be probably the most important thing, and probably the third reason why you probably need a coach, and it's accountability. The reality is we all know what we should do, especially once we know what we should do, meaning like, hey, I know that I should do this, but why am I not doing it? Why am I not taking action? And especially if you want to get somewhere fast, the quickest way to get there, is to be able to clearly know where you're going, but then also have somebody pushing you. All right. Like that was probably the greatest thing that happened to me when I can think back years ago, for when I knew that I was going to jump on a phone call, and I just had a guy say this to me the other day. He's like, dude, there's just something about when I know that I'm going to talk to you about the things that we just talked about a couple weeks ago, it keeps me on point, making sure that I do the things that I said I was going to do, versus when it's just by myself. And he's like, why is that? And I'm like, because there's just something about in the human nature, when you tell somebody that you're going to do something, you want to do it. For some people, it's the recognition. All right. And then for other people, it's the fear of disappointment, that they would disappoint somebody. All right. But a lot of times you don't have that same feeling about your own self. When you say you're going to do something, but you don't follow through and do it, you don't have that same feeling about yourself. But when you have somebody else that you've promised, that's why many times we'll do something in our job, even, and it's not just because we're getting paid, right? Or because we have a boss. It's just the fact that there's somebody else that is holding us accountable. So therefore we'll follow through. And those people aren't even, to be honest with you, the most important people in your life. I saw this commercial the other day, friends, where a guy said, if you died today, even your mom or your spouse or whatever, yes, the next couple days would be tragic. 2, 3, 4 days would go by. And then, the people that maybe you worked for, or that were kind of friends of yours or part of your life, maybe some of the people that you thought were really close to you, they would come to your viewing, they would come to your funeral. And then, you know what? Within a couple hours after your funeral, what would they be thinking about? I'm hungry. Where are we going to go to lunch at? And then later that day, they would be thinking about, you know what, I've got to do this tomorrow. I've got to do that tomorrow with little Johnny, their kids, whatever. And within a matter of a couple days, you know, that person maybe will think about you another 4 or 5 times the rest of their life.
It's like, I'm sorry. It's like Dr. Evil. And he's like, it'd be a 10-minute period
where
I would be inconsolable, but I'd move on and get another, you know.
Like, so that's the reality. That's the world that we live in, right? You know, and so my point to even why I share that is because you should really want, especially those people that are closest to you, your spouse, your kids. I'm so thankful that Jay, you know, when we put together a vision statement for my life years ago, you know, we put that in my vision statement. One of the reasons why I was going to be an entrepreneur is so that I could have 100% control over my schedule, so that nobody could tell me that, hey, listen, nope, you can't coach that team. You can't go to that game. You can't take time off for vacation. You can't, whatever.
This is how much you're worth.
It was a priority for him to coach me and to create those different things that were going to be important to me. So accountability, friends, many times can be a negative, but the reality is accountability is what gets people to follow through and do what they said they were going to do.
And a lot of times, like the clients that we're attracting now, like they're good stewards of their money. Okay. So when we invest a large amount of money into coaching, guess what? We're showing up because we're good stewards of our money, right? And it's like, what's the difference between like the people that we give the, you know, like the people who are close to us that we give the same advice to, and the people who actually pay us for our time? That and because they've invested in it. And then I also want to add this. So one of my newer clients, she is a boss babe, 3 businesses. One of them does $2 million a year, wife, 3 kids, horse farm, like the whole thing. Here is why she hired me. Is she said, you call me on my bullshit. Because see, that's why I want to coach again. Like I haven't had like a coach in a couple of years. Like we had a coach earlier this year, but somebody who can, you know, say, well, you know, like when I catch them in something that they are actually doing to somebody else, it's almost like, oh, thank you for calling me on my BS, you know, or saying, well, let me wrap my brain around that. No, no, this is what you've always done. So for me, like when I think of accountability, I think like when we can call people on the things, call it out loud. Hey, I don't know if you knew this about yourself, but this is a main issue and why your marriage isn't thriving, or your businesses aren't doing what they could be doing, you know, because of this area right here.
You're not in the shape that you could be because, right? When I go to the gym, or I've owned gyms and operated gyms, and I see that 90% of the people that come into gyms, you know, the fact is that when I look at a 30 or 45-minute workout that I do, and I've got 30 sets in, okay, in a span of 40 minutes, and just saw this morning at a gym, you know, where there was a person there that, you know, for every probably 5 to 6 sets that I got, they got 1. You know, so when we talk about speed, we talk about, listen, you know, a person who operates in speed is going to get way more done. They're going to, I've learned this over the years that, listen, a great perfect plan is awesome, but a person with a 75% good of the plan that the person at 100% will run circles around the person that's got the perfect plan, but's not taking any action. So the reality is if you're not taking action on specific things, that tells me that more than likely you will need some type of help with either A, clarity, B, strategy, or C, accountability, friends. Okay. But last thing I want to say on accountability is this, is sometimes people look at coaches as a crutch, especially for men. That's the reason why we don't say it's a marriage, counselor, but it's a marriage coach. But even for there, sometimes people, and it could be pride, it could be humility, lack of humility, where a person says, I got this. But I love what you just said a second ago. How's that working for you? And not looking at this and saying, gosh, I suck. I'm so horrible, because I'm having these issues in my life, but instead saying, no, this is just an opportunity for me. Just like a problem is not a problem. A problem is an opportunity for you to grow through whatever it is that you're going through, right? So I want to give you this encouragement. If you're sitting here and you're listening to this podcast today, friend, and you're like, hey, I need some help, understand that's okay. Because if you're thinking that, what that shows and what that should say to yourself is that you have humility, that you understand that, for you to go next level, you're going to need assistance in some way, shape, or form, whether it be in your life and your fitness and your marriage or your business. And the fact is that you can get there slow or you can get there fast. It's completely up to you. So I'm going to let Rachel land the plane here for a second. Any last things you want to touch on?
I do. I want to talk about that. Like, it's not the strong silent type. People think they're strong, like, because I don't have to share my feelings. I don't have to share my vulnerability. That's not strength. That's cowardness. That is the truth. And I hope I hit somebody right in the gut. Because that was my story too. Just growing up by myself, 17-year-old on my own, changing my own oil, changing my taillights, being independent. Like, I don't need you opening the door. I don't need you to hug me. I don't need you to That's me being a coward, not letting somebody fully in to love me. Okay. So a lot of times, and women even deal with this, like the women I'm coaching now, the CEO type women who understand that, one, pride is sin. Okay. And maybe the reason you're not visioning is because you're disconnected from the vine because of pride. You're not attached. You're not able to vision and dream because you're not attached to the vine, because pride is sin. Worry is sin. And so when you come, like every morning, we say, like, the pure in heart will see God. So when we approach the throne in the morning, every morning, we approach it with a pure heart. Lord, to me, that's the Lord's Prayer. That's repentance. And because I don't want to be disconnected from the vine. I don't want to miss fruit. I don't want to affect somebody else's fruit, because for us, people don't understand this. Fruit, when we say, judge a tree by the fruit it bears, as far as John 15 fruit, you could just check out all of the thousands of people that we've mentored over the years in their lives. Our fruit hangs on their trees. It's not, the house we live in, the cars we drive, our businesses. That's not fruit as far as John 15 fruit.
Yeah.
John 15 fruit is generational fruit. So the one life, like, if, the one of my clients' lives transformed, that is 1,000 generations changed. So if I'm speaking directly to you, if you're in that spot where, you're not joyful, you're not at peace, you have conflict inside of you, your marriage isn't what it could be, your businesses aren't what they could be because your marriage isn't where it needs to be. A lot of people have that messed up. It may seem like their business is going great, but their marriage is like not a focus. They've not invested in their marriage. There's a lot of people that don't invest in coaches, they'll invest in programs. Hey, have you ever invested in your marriage? And then you're wondering, are your marriage is struggling? Come on. Like, so for us, we don't think about invest. We'll interview people, right? We'll select coaches, but we're not like, oh my God, I don't know. Yes, we should invest. Like, that's just us.
Yeah.
Because we've seen the fruit in our lives. And so that's the part of speed too. Like, listen, I don't need your money. You need a coach. You need a mentor. And Curt and I are some of the most valuable coaches on the planet for the simple fact, not for one, is because we've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in our own growth. Everything that comes with me, man, I can't even put a price on it. We're so valuable. But our life, the things that we've navigated through life, adultery, addiction, bankruptcy, disease,
losing businesses
losing
that weren't of
businesses
our fault.
This is how we can help you get to where you need to go. Because listen, guys, we do not have a lot of time. So that's why our time is valuable. So a lot of people, you pay for our time, and then you pay for speed.
Yeah. So I want to just thank you. In with this, friends, is if something that we're saying here has resonated with you, can I just encourage you to do this? Send us a message, DM us the word coach, would love to send you a message back and set up a call. We don't do free calls anymore. Rachel has said that, but, we love to sit down with people and share with people how we can help them, the different programs that we have evolving right now, whether it be Champion Builders Academy, whether it be one-on-one. And I just want to end with this is that, you said this is, are there other high-level coaches out there? Are there people that charge way more than us or who deal with people? Yes, 100%. But what I think makes us so unique is that we really care. We really, truly care about the people that we work with and the people that, God brings into our lives, because you're not just another person. You are a representation of generations to be changed, of eternal impact. And so therefore, when we do anything, it's looking at the whole entire process and saying, hey, how can this be kingdom impacted, right? How can we really, truly, take this person or this couple and have a significant impact on their marriage, because we know what that can look like, because it's happened to us over the years, and we want that for you. So I want to thank you guys for jumping on another episode of the Champion Life Podcast. We love you. We want you to win. We're rooting for you, by the way. And we know, just like for us, it's possible for you. So, hey, we'll see you on the next episode. Love you guys. God bless. See ya.